Everybody ready? Okay, we're going to call our public hearing to order. This is case 2022-14MA, major adjustment to a PUD and zone change. Do you want to begin, Skylar?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. This is case number 2022-14MA. This is a major adjustment to a PUD and a zone change. So we're looking at this as basically an add-on or an addition to the existing Kids First PUD, and they are essentially changing the zoning of these residential lots, as well as a former fire station lot, to move forward with their project, which is a standalone daycare facility. Okay. The current zoning of the property is a single-family residential. To the north here we have light industrial, which is actually a Duke staging area, Duke Energy, as well as this is actually open space that is adjacent to or contiguous with the township park at McDaniel. Okay. To the south is Double O, which is also part of the Kids First development. To the east is DD, Planned Multifamily District, over here. And also to the west is the other portion of Kids First. The new section has 316 feet of frontage along Solzman Road, 164 feet along Old Solzman, up here. And the proposed ISR for this section is 35.6%. So the applicant is requesting to build a 21,407 square foot standalone facility for the new campus, a daycare center, along with modifications to the parking, stormwater detention pond, and landscaping of the existing development. This proposal expands the land area of the existing PUD for Kids First. I won't go in depth with case history here, but essentially over the last looks like close to 2 decades, the Kids First site has developed out into a sports center, focusing on youth sports. Inside the original building was, I believe, the campus. It was just referred to as the campus, which was the daycare component. That operation is now expanding into the standalone facility. And I believe they're doubling their enrollment approximately. So we'll talk about that with the applicant. Planning and zoning considerations. The Sycamore Township Land Use Plan, Vision Plan 2030, indicates the proposed land use is office, which this proposal is consistent with. As far as parking, this proposal, actually let me slide forward here. This proposal is showing 69 parking spaces, and I'll get into that a little bit. They're required to have 66, so 1 space per employee plus 1 space per 6 children at the daycare center. There's not going to be any fleet vehicles for this. There would be an additional requirement for that. They have none, so that's not indicated here. So the new area is providing for 56 spaces, and there are additional spaces on the existing Kids First site that are above and beyond what was required in the past. So they are utilizing 13 of those as shared parking. They are proposing to provide a shared parking and access agreement. As far as lighting, this actually needed to be updated. I apologize for that. There was a photometric plan that was submitted after the zoning commission meeting in preparation for this that is consistent with our lighting requirements. Landscaping, it was the intent of the project owner to keep as much natural vegetation as possible. The submitted landscape plan meets and exceeds our buffer yards in every area, especially with utilizing a lot of the existing vegetation along Solzman Road. There's a very nice row of mature trees along that right of way already. Okay. The applicant is actually proposing, fairly modest signage for this site. The ground sign over here is indicated to be approximately 32 square feet. They would be allowed. They would have been allowed up to 50 square feet, I believe. And while it's not on here with dimensions, they would be allowed up to 57 square feet. The document does state that they would go up to 100 square feet, but after an area calculation, there's really not room to go up to that limit. So that note will be corrected. They'll certainly have no problem, staying within the 57 square feet that's allotted to them. There is a dumpster on site just north of the principal building. This is going to be enclosed in a block structure and with wood gates, which is compliant with our code, and it's also going to be fairly heavily landscaped to either side as well as to the rear. Okay. We did receive and review outside agency comments. Most of these are pretty typical. One item I will mention is the county engineer's comments. All of these are fairly typical, with the exception of they are requesting that additional right-of-way be dedicated in order for this site to be consistent with the thoroughfare plan. This was not a requirement that was implemented on the last two projects that were done on this the west side of Solzman Road here. In order to do that, they would end up moving the road actually closer to new buildings, and it's really just not functional. So while the county has certainly the authority to make these comments, it's not really up to us to enforce that for them. So my conditions and recommendations tonight are going to remain silent on this, and the county can address it as they see fit. But from a zoning standpoint, it's not a necessary component for our approval. Okay. So the zoning commission met on October 11th to review this case. There were no members of the public present. After review of the case documents and staff presentation, as well as the applicant's presentation, and all issues were addressed, and the commission voted unanimously to approve the case with the staff's conditions. So I've modified those conditions here to reflect the updated nature of. Well, I thought I did. I must have printed out an older version of this document. I apologize. So I'll modify this on the fly for you. So the applicant proposes a zone change from A single-family residential to O planned office for the development of a daycare center. The applicant's development plan represents a low-intensity use that provides an appropriate transition from high-intensity uses on Kemper Road and residential uses east and north of the site. Staff recommends approval of the zone change and major adjustment to the SPUD with the following conditions. 1, a shared parking agreement be put in place and recorded consistent with the applicant's proposal. A copy of the recorded agreement shall be submitted as part of the zoning compliance plan. 2 will be what you see on here is 3. 2, no telecommunication tower or billboards be built on site. And 4, if building signage shall not exceed 57 square feet in total size, total area. Okay. And that's all I have, unless there's any questions for me. There are multiple representatives from the applicant here tonight. Brian Dole is with CUC and will be making the initial presentation.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
A few. On the diagram we have here, is that just part of the concrete pad from the dumpster area sticking out into the parking area? It looks like it obstructs some of the spaces.
So let me blow that up. The gate is actually inset back from these islands.
Okay.
So typically what we see where there's a dumpster area, because you have these, the heavy trucks coming in to, take care of that trash, usually there's a concrete pad that's reinforced underneath that. So the pad is out into the drive lane a little bit, but it's actually, the actual structure is set back.
Okay.
So there's no issue there.
Okay. And I'm a little surprised nobody from the public showed up at the zoning commission hearing. How many notices did we actually get out to residents based on the distance from any homes for this?
I'm not sure if any individual home was addressed, but there was at least one, if not both HOAs that were notified.
Okay.
Because the distance from this property,
Well, if we notified the HOAs, that
yeah,
that's
the
great.
distance from this property hit the HOA land, so
Okay.
they would have been properly
Okay.
noticed.
And did we have one of our signs out to let people know there was a proposed change?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, Brian?
Anybody who's going to testify in the public hearing, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Brian, there's a clicker up there for you if you need
No,
to
I
go
see
through
that.
these
Thank you.
pages.
So my name is Brian Dahl with Cincinnati United Contractors, representing the new campus, and we went ahead and put those documents together. Skylar did a great job at going over all those, so I don't know that I have any more things to add to it. I can basically just field questions for you about the proposal that you might have, unless you think I need to explain something more for you.
I'm good with it. Anybody else have any other
I'd like a
questions?
little bit of a clarification.
Sure.
So the fencing that you have
Mhm.
shown here, I think it's the bottom left corner of this presentation.
I'll blow it up.
Okay.
Oh,
You were on the right page,
yeah.
lower left-hand corner.
Yep.
So that fence is going to go around, well, now you're going to have to make it small again.
That's all right.
Or move it around.
So starting at the southeast corner of the building, you're gonna have a gate here. It's gonna extend down to the building.
Yep.
Right.
Yep,
It's gonna pick back up here around the detention area.
yep.
Okay. Come here to this grove of trees. Come back up.
Little
Gate it
gate
here at
here.
the walkway. So it's gonna border that. Gate the detention basin. Come around this walkway. Gate here and back to
Back
that
to the
corner.
building, yep.
Okay.
So I understand it's a daycare center. There are children in the area. It necessarily needs to be fenced when you've got little ones running around.
Right.
It looks like even maybe that little playground isn't yet a secondary fenced
Yep,
area
it is.
inside there.
Correct.
Which I totally get. And I'm not terribly concerned about the aesthetics of the fencing on three sides of that building, but I am a little concerned on, even though there's not much of it on the what would be the front face of that building, that does face our residential areas and our HOA areas. And it appears as though you've got some significant landscaping plan to kind of shield that or hide that, what have you.
Right.
And I just would like to ensure that there is going to be a commitment to firmly disguise that. Fencing isn't beautiful. I don't expect you to invest a ton of money in it. You want to do something that's secure and that's appropriate. And I'm not necessarily, asking you to change the aesthetics of it unless you think that there's something that is perhaps more aesthetically appealing for the front of the building. I just want to make certain that we're not going to hear some complaints from the folks across the road that we've built something that is not terribly aesthetically pleasing.
Gotcha. So currently, what we're showing is the shrubs in front of the fence right there. And of course, there's a couple, that's an existing tree and that's a new tree. And then as well as here, we're showing some shrubs in front of this fence right there, and that's a new planted tree. So the shrubs in maturity should screen most of that fence, that location. I don't know if that's something that you're looking for that to mitigate that issue.
As long as we're all on the same page that we're looking to screen that, and that there's the commitment to execute that landscaping plan. I know that this is set back from the road a little bit, and you've got some other mature trees that you're hoping to keep in place, which is great. I just would like to make certain that there is some attention to the front side of that building, so that we can not have a problem, so that none of us hear from unhappy residents. Let's put it that way.
Understood.
So no, I appreciate that. I appreciate you taking it into consideration on your plan, and just want to reaffirm that there is the commitment to addressing that in a
Through
sensible
landscaping,
fashion.
yes, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Just a few thoughts. I'm not sure whether this would be a concern for anyone or not. I know when the office condos or offices on the corner were going in, residents in the area were very concerned about the traffic impact potentially from that on Salzman Road. And has there been any forecast as to any traffic impact that might come from this, or any traffic plan for this? Because there will be drop-off and pickup periods, I imagine, that's going to affect traffic.
We haven't done a formal traffic study, but I believe, Joni, would you be able to answer those questions regarding the amount of people and the traffic?
Yeah, was she sworn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to swear you in now, right? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
My name is Joni Wakehorst, and I am one of the co-owners of the current campus and the new campus. So the way that our traffic pattern works now is we don't have like a set drop-off and pickup window. It's not like an elementary school where you're going to have hordes of traffic coming through, at 8:30 on the nose, and then another time at 3:30. It just kind of trickles in. So we open at 7:30, and we just kind of trickle in from 7:30 to 9. So at the moment, we've got about 85 kiddos to 90 kids on a daily basis, and we might have like 6 parents in there at a time, maybe 10 at a really busy time. So it's not like we're going to get hordes of traffic and then affect Salzman Road. We also will have a cut through from the new campus to the basketball parking lot. So I think a lot of people that are trying to turn left onto Kemper will utilize that cut through so that they have the light there to turn left. So I think we'll probably get 50-50 on people that actually even go onto Salzman Road.
Okay, and it looks like there are 2 accesses to Salzman from this, the one directly to it from basically just south of the building, and then north off of Old Salzman Road. Any concerns about left turns out of the southernmost one?
No, not really. I mean, there will be some. It's going to add a little bit of traffic, certainly. But the majority of our clientele is Loveland and Montgomery. So we do have some Mason, but with the majority being not to the north, I don't think it'll be a problem.
So they'll be heading back to Kemper
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Not for me. Good. Okay, any other questions? Anybody else here to speak from the public? Okay. If there are no other questions and no other comments, we will close the public hearing and take this up at our meeting at 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Elliot, we good? Okay, everybody ready? Okay, we're going to call a regular meeting to order. If everybody would please rise for the invocation read by Mr. Phillips.
Tonight's invocation comes from Pastor Larry Cornett from Bethel Baptist Temple. Heavenly Father, we gather here tonight to perform the functions related to governing the people of Sycamore Township. We ask that you would be present here this evening by your Spirit to guide our discussion, to give us wisdom and discretion, and to allow us to accomplish your will with one accord. We ask your blessing not only on this meeting, but on the people of Sycamore Township. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Everybody please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Porter would note that all three trustees are present. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes from October 18th. Do we have a motion?
I move we approve the October 18th, 2022 trustee meeting minutes.
A second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter?
Mr. James?
Aye.
Ms. Schwegman?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye. The next item we have on the agenda is a proclamation for Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month. And Tracy, you want to read that?
Sure. Proclamation. Whereas in 2022, an estimated 62,210 people will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in the United States, and 49,830 people will die from the disease. And whereas pancreatic cancer is one of the deadliest cancers, it is currently the third leading cause of cancer deaths in the United States. And whereas in 2022, the 5-year relative survival rate for people diagnosed at all stages of this disease reached 11%. However, people diagnosed at the local stage have a 5-year survival rate of 42%. And whereas pancreatic cancer is a leading cause of cancer deaths, largely because there are no detection tools to diagnose the disease in its early stages. And whereas the good health and well-being of the residents of Sycamore Township are enhanced as a direct result of increased awareness about pancreatic cancer and research into early detection, causes, and effective treatments. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of Township Trustees of Sycamore Township, Hamilton County, Ohio, that November 2022 is designated, quote, Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month, unquote, in Sycamore Township. Passed at the meeting of the Board of Township Trustees of Sycamore Township this first day of November 2022.
Okay, we have a motion.
I move we approve the proclamation.
Second. Any discussion? Mr. Porter?
Mr. James?
Aye.
Ms. Schwegman?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye. Okay, the next item on the agenda. The next item on the agenda is public comments. I trust we have nobody.
No one has signed up.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, planning and zoning report. Skylar.
Okay, first item I have for you is a resolution for zoning case number 2022-14MA. And I have a draft resolution here for your review. This is the approval version, so I'm assuming based on what I heard at the meeting, I think I'll go ahead and read this one.
Okay.
A resolution approving case number 22-14MA for a zone change and major adjustment to a PUD for Cincinnati United Contractors LLC in Sycamore Township and dispensing with a second reading. Just quickly here, Section 1 does specify that this has been determined consistent with Sycamore Township Land Use Plan and approved with conditions as specified in Exhibit A. This is the approval language. And the staff recommended comments are, conditions are as follows. 1, a shared parking agreement be put in place and recorded consistent with the applicant's proposal. A copy of the recorded agreement shall be submitted as part of the zoning compliance plan. 2, no telecommunication towers or billboards be built on site. And 3, building signage shall not exceed 57 square feet in total area.
And this is a follow-up to our public hearing at 6 o'clock. So anybody, do we have a motion?
I move we approve the resolution as presented.
A second?
Motion is second. Any further discussion? I'd just like to say, Jeff, staff. You do such a great job in our township. You're a real asset, and we're thrilled to have the continued expansion there. Everything is, it's going to be an awesome project, so we're looking forward to it.
Thank you very much for the support.
Thank you.
Great project. Looking forward to having you.
This will be
Rob,
printed at break.
Mr. Porter?
Mr. James?
Aye.
Ms. Schwegman?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item looks like we have a nuisance property.
Yes, sir. Okay, I'll go ahead and read this resolution and then show you the pictures. This is a resolution providing for and authorizing removal of vegetation, garbage, refuse, and other debris, and declaring a nuisance for the property located at 5610 Cooler Mill Road, Sycamore Township, Ohio, 45236.
Is that 6510?
Oh,
You said 56, Tim.
I'm sorry, 6510 Kugler Mill Road. My apologies.
I'll go ahead and move we approve the resolution as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Skylar, you want to just run through these pictures? here?
Yeah, just very quickly. So this is typical tall grass debris. This property is not being maintained in the front yard and along the right of way. You can see the tall grass growing up here in both these pictures. Up against the garage area, you can kind of get an idea. It's over a foot tall in some areas with those tall grasses.
Is someone living in there right now?
I believe it is occupied.
We don't have one of your usual cover pages in the back.
We don't. I apologize. There was a little miscommunication.
Okay.
Have we?
Skylar, is this the owner that is overseas a lot?
I believe they may be. Yeah. So there is somebody living there, but we haven't been successful in getting any type of dialogue with the property owner. So
Yeah, this is the same one that we had trouble making contact with when we did the Kenwood, the Cougar Mill
Cougar
Road
Mill
project.
Yep.
Very, very hard to
Yep.
get a hold of.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter?
Mr. James?
Aye.
Ms. Schwegman?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
Okay. Other than that, for for our November meeting, the zoning commission is going to be hearing two PUD proposals. The first one will actually make its way to the trustees. This will be a PUD 2. Robert Lucky Group is proposing a mixed-use development at the corner of Kemper Road and North Lake Drive. The first three buildings are, I don't want to call it their typical, but it'll be office or mixed-use buildings similar to some of their other products that we've seen in the past. And then they're proposing to have a open cafe restaurant corner, and they're looking for they're actually working with a couple of different potential users for that site, for something between a coffee shop and a small sit-down restaurant.
Okay.
And that right next door is the March 1st Brewery.
Mhm.
It would be wonderful if they had a shared parking agreement between them.
It's been offered. So the Lucky Group is open to working with them. Okay. The other project, so this is an oddball one. This is, I believe this is I think this is coming in as a PUD 1. So in High Point along First Avenue, we actually have a number of properties that are zoned commercial. However, historically, they've been used for residential purposes. The problem is that these properties are subject to commercial setback standards. So there was an issue with some consolidation of multiple parcels here, but ultimately the easiest and fastest way to get this resident in front of a board to get their proposal reviewed is to bring it in as a PUD 1 instead of going through a variance process. So, kind of an interesting case. It's certainly an oddball one that we'll be taking a closer look at now that we have their their full proposal in place. But yeah, it's.
So are they looking to utilize the existing home as a commercial use, or?
They want to expand an existing non-conforming use. Typically, if this were.
You said it was an oddball, so sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry if I asked you.
it's odd.
Asked you
Yeah,
a trick
so,
question.
It's a residence. They want to expand the residence.
Okay.
Based on the plans I'm seeing, it looks like maybe some kind of mother-in-law suite type situation. I just received these plans, so I'm just letting you know that these items are on the horizon. But zoning staff have not given either of these full review yet. We're still working on comments. But
Okay.
yeah, this is an interesting case. Certainly oddball.
Okay,
That's
anything else?
Other than that, I can say that we are currently working with CIG on the Aspire site. They're looking to get a final zoning approval so they can move forward with certificate of occupancy. There were numerous findings that they'll have to address, but we met out on site today, and quite a few of them have already been addressed. So they're coming along. I'm hopeful that they're going to meet all the standards here in the very near future.
Good. Questions? Next item on the agenda is Sheriff Patrol Report. Tonight we have Sergeant Loskamp with us.
Yes.
Welcome.
Just a couple things. Car 80, the last of the vehicles that's been purchased by Sycamore Township, has been placed into service. So all the vehicles are now in service. All the new vehicles are in service. And then I guess there was a couple incidents at Bechtold Park over the last 2 weeks. Skylar was helping establishing, getting us some video and whatnot. We made one arrest on one of the incidents, and we found the other person who was responsible for the auto accident on the property as well. So
Okay, great.
that's all we got.
Okay, thanks. Any questions? Okay, next item on the agenda is EMS and Fire Report. Chief?
Halloween went over very well last night. The weather cooperated for a short time, long enough to get that through. And the crews actually were able to go out and pass out the candy without any runs or any interruptions, which is unusual. The south area here went into the Glenover area and the Bayberry area, and the north was in High Point and Kempernell area. So they were able to stay out till they ran out of candy, so it worked out pretty well.
That's great.
The other thing is I received a letter from John D. Zering. He lives 2374 Madison Road, and he's writing it showing his appreciation for EMS services that were provided. He went unconscious in the North Creek family practice in the lobby area, and they basically had to rush him to Bethesda North, and he was very appreciative of it. All thumbs up on the thank you letter, and the reason I brought this to you because he included a $250 donation
Very nice.
for to the department, so I wanted to make you aware of it.
Great.
Very nice.
That's all I got.
Any questions? Okay, Roads Maintenance and Recreation, Mr. Kellums.
Okay, well, in recreation, everything's coming to an end. The fields are no longer being rented. The restrooms are closed, and it was a very successful year. Fields were used quite heavily this year, so that was good to see. Only other thing I have is wanted to bring up, as you know, last meeting we talked about the Special Events Committee wanting to bring back the festival. We've talked about that. I've talked with Mr. Petty, and who's talked with a couple of his people, and I have also. And they're very excited about bringing this back and wanting to get involved, not only in the entertainment, but also in helping secure sponsorship. So I think, sponsorship's definitely the key. If we can get help with that, I think that really helps us a lot. So I didn't have this before. I apologize when the packet went out, but I just wanted to pass this out to you. These are some of the band costs that we have found now. It's printed on both sides, so that. But as you know, these bands book very early, so I'm asking for some kind of direction so we can actually make some contact with some bands. I've talked to the committee, and so far the consensus has kind of been that just to have one national act and not a $70,000 act, a reasonable national act Saturday night, and that would be the only national act that we would have, and the rest would be maybe a regional and locals. But there's a lot of interest. Committee's excited. So I'd like to ask for some direction from the board, whether it's a dollar amount to start looking at bands, or a dollar amount to dedicate to entertainment for the whole event, not to exceed. So we have some kind of something to shoot at, because we have to basically get 5 or 6 bands, and the national acts are the ones that go quickly.
Yeah, I think I'd rather try to focus on the national acts. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
I'm actually sort of pleased to see that there are the volume of bands available on the front page versus the back page. Let's put it that way. On the lower end of the scale.
Yeah.
So I mean, look, I don't think these numbers aren't a surprise to me. Let's put it that way. And like I said, I'm actually pleasantly surprised that the selection is as broad as it is in that price range. I'd be interested to see what kind of mix of entertainment between a national act on a Saturday and complemented by some local bands, and maybe that's the trick, is to figure out who are the right local players that are going to local acts that are going to draw well for us on Friday, and then how do you balance that out with the entertainment on Saturday, just even as far as the type of music that's being played, so you're not overlapping a ton. But
I see what you're saying, but I think my thought is we need to go the other way first. I mean, if we wait until
it's fair, that's
we
true.
find out who's
No, yeah, you've got to pick your. You've got to book these guys while you can.
And we're going to lose out on national bands.
I think you've got to pick
It's
your national
easier,
band.
I believe, to get a local band and say, yeah, these guys would fit good
Right.
with this
Right.
this band, rather than doing.
I think
no
you've got a
offense,
lot of.
but
I think no. I think you've got a lot of genres locally.
Yeah,
that would balance
absolutely.
out
Yeah.
whatever you choose nationally.
Yeah.
That was my only point. Was I think you've got a breadth of
There's a lot.
You've got a
good
breadth of
local talent.
selection.
There really is.
and I think you've got some good options here on the front side of this page
Yeah.
that would make some sense.
And there may be more out there that we haven't got yet, so if you want to stay on the front of this page, if you want to limit the national band at 25,000, we can work with that. Obviously, it's all about sponsorship.
Yep.
Sponsorship
It
is
drives
what
everything.
makes the festival successful and affordable.
Well, my thoughts on this. I prefer local bands entirely for this, but if we're going to be bringing in a national act, and clearly that's the consensus here, I think. I like the front page too. I like the $5,000 to $15,000 range the most, of course. But
I
and
like Blue Oyster Cult at 50 on the back, but I don't think we're going to get that much fun.
And my concern with these is, these are the names of famous bands, and maybe a few of the members of them in there too. But these are basically tribute bands in many ways. Anyway, they get to use the name and logo, but that provides a draw, and with proper sponsorship, maybe that provides a big draw for the sponsor too. Of course,
That's what
they'll appreciate.
Yeah, that's what our thought was
Yeah.
when we were talking.
Yeah.
I think it's easier to get sponsorship if you have a name and you get that name early, so
Yeah.
you're not just saying, well, we'd like you to sponsor it, and we're going to bring a national band in. I think you really
Right.
need to have that band
And look,
selected.
a lot of these national bands are they are not at their full original complement just due to their age, and that is not stopping them from filling arenas and stadiums
No
or
question.
fields of any size. So, I've attended them. I've you know of all all sizes, and whether it's 2 original members or all original members, it's not stopping people from coming to see these folks.
And, you know, there has been some interest, you know, we were very interested in the Spin Doctors and a couple, you know, Soul Asylum, a couple other on here that are a little newer bands, you know, and they're probably more original members, but it all depends on who's available, who's traveling, who's going to be in the area.
I have to ask for my brother-in-law's sake. Roger Klein and the Peacemakers. That would be a good one. Check into
Roger Klein and
the Peacemakers. They have a huge national following,
Oh,
apparently.
I bet they do.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to try to figure out if we can
I've heard
focus at 30,000 max for the Saturday night lead band, and let's see what we can get for that. I mean, we need to go back and see if there are others besides these on the list. I know this is probably an abbreviated list.
We can do that. And it's a lot easier with the dollar amount too.
And frankly, when
And when you've got a dollar amount, you can also negotiate.
yes,
Right.
because I think in the past we've gone to multiple bands that's when they were at a certain price, and we always got them for less.
Yeah.
And so
And
I
if
think-
somebody's traveling and they're coming through the area,
Exactly.
it's a good place for them to
Right.
stop.
So I'd like to try to have the group focus on a max of 30,000. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Like I said, I'm with you. I mean, I like the front page the front page better, and I think, like I said, I'm pleasantly surprised that there's as many available in that price range. I think we can probably find somebody that meets our objective at that number and under.
I think my point was if somebody's listed at 30,000, we might be able to
Right.
get to 25
No,
or 20.
I agree.
Yeah, and
I agree.
and they'll still be on the front
I
page.
agree.
So you're saying 30 is the national act, not all the entertainment?
Correct. Because the other ones are going to be a couple grand probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
8,000 each.
Right.
So that's manageable.
So that's not bad.
Yeah. I'd say 10 more toward 20 to 25, but I'm outnumbered, so.
Let's
But
go out and see
You're
what
a
we can.
hard bargainer too, though, right? So you and Jason can work on them.
Oh, yeah. You know I am.
I'm amenable to that.
I appreciate that you're saying that bands like Soul Asylum are newer bands on your list.
Yeah. We're not all as young as you.
You know, Tommy James is on here, 50,000.
Yeah.
I saw that. I like
Uh-huh.
the name, you know.
Yeah.
It's 50
Yeah.
because it comes with life support.
Oh, ouch.
Hey, he came in, we had a great
Ouch.
concert. We got him for like 20 grand less than he was originally asking, if you recall.
Does that price include Shondells?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's fine.
Okay.
Then is there a motion, or do we need a motion?
I don't think we
for
need a
that, or
motion.
I
I
can
don't think
just
you need
proceed.
You don't need a motion until you're going to approve the contract.
Okay. Very good. Okay, so that really does it for parks. As far as roads go, as you know, leaf season, we are in the heart of it. The guys are having a hard time catching up, mainly because of lack of labor. We just got another temp. I mean, it's almost impossible to get people to come into work. So our guys are working hard though. They're at it every day, all day. We're supposed to be milling Plainfield Road Thursday.
Great.
So I hope that happens. So we should be sometime by the end of next week at least paving Plainfield and moving on to pave Larchview right after that.
Great.
So Larchview is completely based in and has asphalt on it, and they've done a great job. I believe they're finishing up restoration right now, so it's moving along real good.
Is that Jurgensen?
It is Ford. Jurgensen is doing the paving.
They're
but
doing the
Ford
paving.
is the general.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've done a great job.
So for roads and maintenance, that's all I have, sir.
Okay.
Unless there's questions.
Questions?
Just one thing, I think you saw this too, but a resident reached out to me after contacting Steve Riddleshow for about a pothole or something, and Steve got back to him instantly, and he was very impressed. And Steve does provide great customer service, so I thought I would just mention that in the meeting here.
Okay, thank you. I'll pass that along.
Okay, any other questions? Law Director report, Larry.
I have nothing to report.
We love those.
We love those reports.
Okay.
Pretty good at it.
Administrator report.
I have one thing besides the resolutions. Received an email today about having SORTA come in for a meeting. If you remember the last meeting, we talked about that. I know Mr. James, I believe, was copied on that and forwarded them my information. So we'll be looking to have them come in and do a presentation in the next couple of meetings, whenever we can get it together. So I know the board was interested in that.
Just for the record on that, sorta, there was a bus parked in front of Nordstrom on Kenwood Road going north, and it wasn't moving, and everybody got stopped up today, 4
It's
o'clock.
probably because he was in McDonald's.
I'm behind it often.
At Nordstrom?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There are
Great.
others that
Another
stop
one of
there.
my favorite places to park is in front of Graders. I mean, I've just seen them driving by, but
Yeah, right.
I've
You were
heard
talking to him in
that they park at Graders.
line. He was talking to him in line.
I was just going to say,
Usually it's just past it though, so you're able to make the turn in.
he was sitting in the drive-thru and watching them intently.
Okay, so I have a resolution here. So a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor.
I move we approve the resolution as presented.
Second?
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter.
Mr. James? Aye.
Ms. Schwagman?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
Okay, so the next, I have a couple resolutions here, and this is about our property and casualty insurance. As you know, we are with Otarma now. We had been with HCC for a while last year. We only had one bid, that was from Otarma. We have come up with 2 bids, talked to HCC and Zurich. Neither one of them could put a bid together. HCC was not willing to cover the sheriff's vehicles, and Zurich would not cover the liability because of the lawsuit. So it's come down to just between 2, and that is Otarma and the Ohio Plan. I've researched this thoroughly. We've put a committee together that Skylar and Chief both helped me with. All department heads were on it, along with myself. We've gone through this pretty much with a fine-tooth comb, made sure that it was apples to apples and oranges to oranges, and that everything's being insured at the same level. A lot of levels were changed, a lot of levels were increased, but when it came down to it, basically the prices are real close to the same. As you can see, they both have good training programs to help our employees. They're both very helpful. So the one big difference is, and this is something that we talked about last year, I know some of you had concerns over liability with Otarma. Now, as long as you're with Otarma, and we were with them this year, and we had very good service from them. We had no problems with their service. The one concern that the committee had, though, was the same one that was brought up last year, is that if you're with Otarma, you're fine. If you go to leave Otarma, you're out there on your own, basically, as far as liability goes. Now, if you have an open claim on a property insurance, you're still covered. But if you have a claim of liability, even something that hasn't been made, OTARMA is not going to cover you once you leave. So we had an instance this year where that happened, where we had a lawsuit for something that happened last year. HCC from last year is covering that. That would not happen this year if we left OTARMA. But Ohio Plan in their policy has retroed all the liability to November 1st of 2021, which is when OTARMA took over, so there will be no lapse. So we are completely covered all the way back to when OTARMA was first insuring us. So the OTARMA plan, so the Ohio plan is $137,237. OTARMA is $137,828. Both coverages are the same. The committee was basically well, not basically, they were unanimous in being very concerned with the liability clause, and that right now, if we're going to go, this would be the time to go because we don't have open claims.
Right.
And you know, the committee was worried that what happens in the future if there are claims, we won't have a choice.
Yep.
So,
If you recall, when this came up, when we switched from HCC to OTARMA, I expressed strong opposition to that change. I know our previous administrator, I don't believe even had Ohio Plan come in because of potentially some previous litigation he was involved in with Ohio Plan at the previous township he was at. The whole liability issue on OTARMA is frightening to me based on past history, and I know that Markovic, who wrote our HCC, told us that he was really dying to get back in, and but the last litigation threat from our previous administrator kind of threw a wrench in that whole thing, and so he couldn't get that part covered by either HCC or Zurich. Neither one of them would write it. So I am totally in favor of Ohio Plan. We should not be risking the liability exposure in our township for, and this is, like you say, it's a great opportunity for us to get out because we don't have any pending litigation, A, and B. Ohio Plan has retroed this so that they'll cover it in the event that something does come up in the future. So there isn't a better time for us to switch to the Ohio Plan. I was never in favor of OTARMA because I didn't like that liability issue at all.
I would certainly echo those sentiments. I think also the cyber component, which is a relatively new wrinkle in all of our worlds, but a growing area of exposure. And if I recall correctly, if I read this correctly, OTARMA had to go out and find a third-party provider to be able to actually quote that for us. Is that accurate?
well, they had cyber, it just was not sufficient to cover us.
Got it.
So we went out and they got an underwriter to provide a policy that would.
Whereas Ohio Plan is part of the it's part of their entire comprehensive plan, so we're not going to be in the position of subrogating or anything like that should something arise.
That is correct.
And I think Ohio Plan makes sense, too. I think Mr. Wiedeman's recollection is slightly at odds with the facts and the minutes as to what happened last time, as to how some of this came about. We were having trouble getting quotes last time around, if I recall right, too, because of litigation threats that had been made at the time while our former administrator was still here. Those threats weren't by him. There was other pending litigation as well, which had caused our exposure to go up at the time, so it was difficult to get some quotes. But for whatever reason, the board chose to go with OTARMA at the time. I thought unanimously, maybe I'm recalling that wrong, but Ohio Plan certainly makes sense here, so I think that's what we should go with.
Okay, I have a resolution for you. A resolution authorizing the township administrator to approve a contract for property and casualty insurance, dispensing with the second reading and declaring an emergency.
I move we approve the resolution as presented.
Second?
Motion is second. Any further discussion?
And just to be clear, this resolution, I don't know if the title said that, but this is the one with the Ohio
It
plan.
did, yes, section 1 says the board hereby authorizes the township administrator to approve a contract with the Ohio plan for the provision of property and casualty insurance for a premium in an amount not to exceed $137,237.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter?
Mr. James?
Aye.
Ms. Schwagman?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
So I have another resolution. The following final resolution enacted by the Board of Township Trustees, Hamilton County, Ohio, hereinafter referred to as the Legislative Authority, Local Public Agency, LPA, in the matter of the stated described project. The stated project is, consists of the rehabilitation of the bridge located on Snyder Road over Interstate Route 71, including parapets, vandal protection fence, minor bridge repairs, upgrades, approach work, guardrail, sidewalk signage, pavement markings in line within Sycamore Township, Ohio. And so the board knows this is the one where we talked about the decorative vandal fence. Larry and I had quite a time getting this contract through, but Larry did a great job with ODOT to make sure that we were liable for nothing but the vandal fence. And only, as you remember, we passed a resolution putting a lid on the amount that we would spend, and we get 3 days to look at that after they bid it in order to accept it or reject it. And that is all in this contract and resolution.
And just for the record, that was actually a motion we passed, setting a $150,000 cap with the 3-day rule. It was not a resolution.
Yeah, okay.
I move we approve the resolution as presented.
A second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I will just elaborate on what Mr. Kellum said. There is a $150,000 cap that the Board of Trustees voted to impose, where if the cost of this vandal fence will exceed that, the administrator has been instructed to turn that down. There's a process here through which we get 3 days' notice from ODOT as to what that cost will be, and then have an opportunity to either proceed or reject it. I am not in favor of spending any money on this fence, but this does not obligate us to do it. This does move the project along. So,
I think you referred to that as a vandal fence. It's a decorative
or
fence.
decorative fence, excuse me. The vandal fence I'm fine with. The decorative fence with the pretty sycamore thing on it will look very nice, but I think that's an extravagant waste of money. But we have capped it, so if the cost is going to be more than $150,000 additional, we've already determined it won't go forward.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter?
Mr. James?
Aye as to this motion, or resolution.
Ms. Schwagman?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye. Okay, next item, purchase orders over 5,000. You all have a list in front of you?
I believe you all have a list. So, I'll just do them all at once. PO number 22-135-1 is a blanket vendor for the amount of $75,000 for admin contract services. That is coming out of general fund. 22-165-14, World Fuel Services for $17,500 for road fuel. That is coming out of the road fund. 22-295, Stryker Medical, $14,320.80. Lucas Equipment Maintenance Agreement, and that is coming out of the fire budget. 22-296, Ohio Treasury, $37,490.18 for Ohio Public Works loan. This is for the Sturbridge Drive reconstruction loan. 22-297, U.S. Bank, $137,525. This is for the 2014 Tri-Health payment. 22-300, U.S. Bank, in the amount of $568,850 for refunding payment 2016. That is for Redstone and general debt service, which includes the Deerfield Firehouse and Deerfield Park. And 22-301, Cincinnati City School District, $259,857.13 for school payment, after payment, and that does make the school whole.
Okay, we have a motion.
I move we approve the purchase order list Mr. Kellum just presented.
A second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter?
Mr. James?
Aye.
Ms. Schwagman?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye. Next item on the agenda is the fiscal officer report.
Yes, we had cash receipts of $118,881.86, disbursements of $1,733,007.78. A complete listing of the receipts and disbursements is available in the packet.
I move we approve.
A second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter?
Mr. James?
Aye.
Ms. Schwagman?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye. Next item on the agenda is trustee comments.
A couple of comments. Certainly, as Mr. Kellums mentioned, want to thank all of our township staff for their work with the leaves. They are coming down fast and furiously. I am grateful that the weather is warm. Makes a big difference when they're out there all day long and pulling up a lot of wet leaves. So I'm grateful for that. And I know that they're also finishing up some sidewalk work and what have you. So thanks for those folks that are out there working hard every day in the township. Second, I want to remind folks that next Tuesday is Election Day, and I encourage everyone to take advantage of the opportunity to make your voice heard at the ballot box. Please go vote. It's a privilege and an honor to be able to do so, so I hope folks take advantage of that day. Looks like the weather is going to be favorable on that day as well, so hopefully that will spur some turnout. And then also next week, I think it's important that we also be mindful of next Friday, which is actually Veterans Day. That sometimes gets lost, coming quickly on the heels of Election Day. Next Friday is Veterans Day. If you know a veteran, see a veteran, thank them for their service. They are out there serving this country and all of us as well. So be sure to take a moment and thank them. That's all I have.
Okay. Any comments?
What she said, basically. I'll add also in terms of Election Day, if anyone's got some free time and the inclination to do it, poll workers are always desperately needed by the Hamilton County Board of Elections and by each of the major parties who have observers there on Election Day, both at the individual polling places and at the Board of Elections afterward for counting. If you've got time and the inclination to help out, please consider doing it. It'll help your community. Thanks.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is executive session. I'll make a motion to adjourn into executive session as permitted by Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22 G1 to consider the employment, dismissal, discipline, or compensation of a public employee with the Township Law Director.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter?
Mr. James?
Aye.
Ms. Schwagman?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye. In that we will need Tracy, Larry, Tom, Tracy, Rob, Skylar. That's it. Nice man. Okay, we are out of executive session at 8:38. Is there any further business?
Roll call.
Roll call. Mr. Porter.
Mr. James?
Here.
Ms. Schwagman?
Here.
Mr. Weedman?
Present. Any further business?
Yes, I move that the township continue next year with the current group health plan, subject to the committee recommendations embodied in this document, which we will place in the minutes.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? Mr. Porter.
Mr. James?
Aye.
Ms. Schwagman?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye. There's no other business. We'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.
Aye.
Very good.
All right.